figures reasonable, I can say that a lot of effort was put into them, not just by myself, but by the chairman of your committees, Representative Ruby and Senator Hope, and the Budget Office also. We feel that they're fair, and we feel that they're reasonable, and we hope that in your considered judgment that you'll find them the same, and that as a result we can expedite the division of these funds and this session as well. We sincerely believe, based upon what we've been told by members of this committee and other members of the House and the Senate, that there's a good possibility that the House will adopt, I say possibility, the House will accept the liquor control bill the way it is as a reasonable compromise, and that there's a possibility that that will be done today, in which event it will have laid on our office for 5 days Saturday, which would make very possible, if these figures are can be acceptable, adjournment on that date. But there again, it's just respectfully submitted for your all's consideration with this recommendation. Yeah, Henry.
I think so. I think that the Oklahoma City Police Department has stayed abreast of the times fairly well, and I think that they are to be commended for their training programs. But as we continue to go along, of course, many of these areas will have to be changed, and many adjustments probably will have to be made to take care of the future needs. Well, of course, specifically, the Institute at Northwestern University, naturally they don't have the solutions written out or anything of that sort, but they do have, in dealing with these problems, naturally, first you have to gather the facts, and then you have to find out the objectives and determine manpower needs before any solutions of any kind could come up. But we feel like that in planning for the needs of any city, it will be necessary to make these studies and naturally come up with some sort of a solution to give the people of the city the services that's needed by the city. Of course, Chief Bergman has already given me some assignments, and among these is naturally to find out, to determine what some of the future needs are.
You all know we've already, the Senate and the House both have already passed, been signed, the supplemental appropriation of a little over $2 million, which is an additional outlay of money, whether it is considered as such or not. It is, in fact, over and above the $43 million expended in the last biennium, plus $400,000 for the medical center at OU, and $650,000 for the Kellogg Continuing Education Center, which is approximately $1 million more, the two together, gives roughly $53 million appropriation for higher education over and above a $43 million figure of 2 years ago. The $82 million for education is roughly the figure that we had in the first budget. As you all know, the school code that passed and is now law calls for in the neighborhood of $94 million. To include or to follow that with an appropriation of that amount would strip the Highway Department appropriation to a point that was just completely unreasonable insofar as any kind of a highway program was concerned. We knew that the Senate and the House both were just as concerned about a reasonable highway program as we were. Using it to match all federal funds, it will not match all of them, but we believe that it will prevent us from losing any federal funds that are running toward the end of their 2-year period. You'll notice that in addition to that, we've provided plus any 1960 surplus that would accrue would also go to the Highway Department to back that up or push it up and make it just a little bit closer to the figure of being able to match all federal funds. Middle schools and hospitals, I think roughly the, Jim or Bert, what was the appropriation for the last biennium? 17 what?
17.8.
17 million dollars to $20 million, or $20,500,000. You can see that there's a substantial increase in that for mental health. But we've taken the revised estimate of figures from the budget office, the latest ones that they have on anticipated revenue, and used also the same figure that we've used all along for anticipated revenue from withholding and from the liquor tax, come up with a total of roughly $218 million, which is about $3 million more than the figure we'd been working with before.
You know, I really think that is somewhat overrated as to the damage it does to children. I myself have more faith in these kids that are growing up. They go through these things, they see these things on television. Of course, they are not representative always and not real, and the amount of shooting and all is exaggerated. We know that, but that's
Well, it's just a case, if you want to tell tall tales, I think that's all well and good. I consider most TV shows tall tales. They have no relation to fact. The authenticity of them is very questionable all the way through. I think Wyatt Earp is a beautiful example of hoodwinking the public, let us say. He is not the kind of a man that we get portrayed on television.
Now, I don't know about you. I'm opposed to parts of this, just like you are. But, man, it's here. We've got to have it. We just will go ahead and take what we've got. We got to take it on out here. You can just stall around, and not get a dadgum thing accomplished. So if we just go ahead, let it go on through, 2 years from now, gentlemen, we can make a damn good bill out of it, and it sure needs a lot of help. But what is wrong with the bill? I want someone to get up here and tell me what is basically wrong with this bill.
So, boys, I'm against it for that reason. I will vote no as long as the $2.40 tax is in there. Thank you.
Now, when it comes right down to it, we can keep on saying we've got to go home. Well, gentlemen, I was elected by the people of Tulsa County to come up here and represent them, and I'm not willing right now to quit that job or have to keep my responsibility just because I've got a business. And believe me, I'm losing just as much as anybody in this house. I'm ready to go home, and I want to go home. But I want to do a good job. And if we push this thing through just to get home, just to get back to our businesses, just because we're making less and we're spending up here each day that we're up here, we have abdicated our responsibility. We have broke faith with the people that elected us, and I'm not willing to do that.
Many good drives as there are in this House and in that Senate, and as many good reps and qualified men as there are in this House and that Senate, and controversial as this bill is, we can never get a bill that everybody will agree on.
We have tried to do away with bootlegging, we say. Yet we have kept them right in their Cadillacs, and gentlemen, believe me, this measure, this $2.40 tax will not even take them out of their Cadillacs. Now, 50% of your tax revenue are going to come out of 2 or 3 counties in this state. And I know the sentiment in Tulsa County is such that the bootlegger is still going to be respected as a necessary part of our public system with a $2.40 tax.
This is a good control measure. The statement has been made, well, the people of Oklahoma voted to legalize the sale, and yet we're not going to permit them to drink it. Gentlemen, all I ask you to do is to check the Constitution which was submitted to the people. Not one word was written in that constitutional amendment which even suggested that there was going to be any free and open drinking of whiskey. It did legalize the sale of whiskey, which is precisely what was done, which is precisely what this bill does. This bill conforms to the will of the majority of the people of Oklahoma as they express themselves, and we should adopt it as such.
And I say to you, members of this House, that this is the best control bill that's ever been written by any legislative assembly in any state in the American Union.